All right, everybody, welcome back to another episode number 6 of the Bleav in Patriots podcast. If you missed any of the episodes so far, you can always go back and find them. Bleav in Patriots. You can just simply Google it, take you to the Bleav website. You can also subscribe, rate, review on Apple Podcasts and on Spotify, or you can watch us on YouTube. So we are everywhere. We are everywhere for you. You can follow us again, all those places: YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify. Bleav in Patriots. You can follow me on social media on Twitter at FA Radio Brady. So at Free Agent Radio Brady. Plenty to get to. Bob Sosi joined us in our last one. Bob Sosi, the voice of the Patriots. That was great. Got a lot of good compliments there as well. Our guy Miguel from at Pat's Cap will join us in about 15 minutes from now. If you are a Patriots fan and you are not following Miguel, you need to be at Pat's Cap on Twitter. He's got every piece of information you could want to know about the Patriots' money issues. Whenever a transaction happens, he tells you exactly what the amount of cap space the Pats have are. They always say you got to find your niche, your niche. I always say niche. A lot of people say niche, though. You got to find your niche and exploit that. And Miguel does that better than anybody, it feels like, on the Patriots beat, because he keeps track of the Patriots salary cap, and all the Pats beat writers and TV, radio people are all over what he's got as well. So he joins us in about 15 minutes. I saw something interesting on Twitter I wanted to address. So a lot of you know I just lost my job as a radio host in Burlington, Vermont, and somebody decided to, I guess, pile on and say, Farkas can never be the voice of Patriots fans. He grew up a Seattle fan. He grew up in New York. He could never be the voice of New England. I did grow up in New York. I did grow up as a Seattle fan. I'm still a Seahawks fan in my heart as well, in addition to supporting the Patriots. I'm not trying to be the voice of a region. I'm not trying to be the voice of Vermont, New Hampshire, Maine, Massachusetts. I'm not trying to be the voice of the Patriots. I'm trying to be a place where you can come and get knowledgeable and get entertained. So get informed and get entertained about things that you care about as related to the New England Patriots. Although, again, I grew up a Seattle fan, I've had more access to the New England Patriots than any other NFL team in my life, just because of what I've been able to do and who I've been able to surround myself with in the game, the context that I made. I am now more qualified to talk about the Patriots than I am a team that I grew up watching, a team that I still support to this day in the Seahawks. So, and not that I've ditched my Seattle allegiances, because I haven't. I am still a Seahawks fan. But you are allowed, as you get older and as you grow into professional markets, to take bits and pieces of what's around you. And being around the Patriots every day for 4 years now has afforded me a different outlook, afforded me a different respect of the way that the Patriots do things, a different respect of the way that the organization is run, the way the organization is put together, of the players that there are. I've got a chance to meet and talk to several Patriots players over the years, from Dion Lewis to Dante Hightower to Matthew Slater to Rex Burkhead to Brandon Bolden to Logan Ryan when he was here. I mean, I got a chance to Eric Rowe. I got a chance to talk to a lot of people who played for the Patriots in the current, or the more, in the most recent iteration of the Pats. But I've also got to speak to Willie McGinnis of the world multiple times and just develop an understanding of the organization, of the culture, and develop an appreciation for that and make some friends too. So I'm not trying to be the voice of a region. I'm just trying to help bring you great coverage that aids you in your conversation and get you some stuff maybe that you can't get in other places. The big story of today, and I'm recording this late Monday, the big story is that college football is going to be drastically different in 2020. And I know that it's not NFL talk, and it doesn't impact the Patriots directly, maybe in the way that you think that it does, but it does ultimately impact the Patriots, and it impacts fans of football in general. So as I do this, it looks like the Big Ten is going to cancel football. It looks like the Pac-12 is going to cancel football as well. The ACC, Big 12, SEC on the fence, but trying to salvage something. I've even seen reports that Some of the Big Ten schools might leave the Big Ten for 1 year and hook on with the Big 12 in an effort to try to save their season because they're not on board necessarily with canceling the season in their own conference. So there's many balls up in many different courts now as I record this. This all started a couple of days ago with the MAC, the MAC, Mid-American Conference. When they started losing their non-conference games, when they started losing their games against big ticket teams, big revenue teams, teams that would pay them to play, it no longer became financially viable for the MAC to take the risk associated with playing through the pandemic. So when everybody says, oh, this is about money, that was one instance where it really was about money. I think the MAC, if they had been allowed to have their buy games, to have their money games this season, they would have tried to figure out a way to stick this out through the pandemic. But when it wasn't financially solvent for them or financially viable for them, they decided to cut bait. The big thing for me is the Power 5 conferences. I believe that the Power 5 conferences could play football. Big 12, ACC, Pac-12, Big 10, SEC. I believe they could play. They have enough money, enough conference revenue, enough individual revenue in their universities that I think they could do the amount of testing that would be necessary. This comes down to two things if you're these Power 5 conferences. One is trust. They don't have it. And the other is liability, and they don't want it. So when I start with trust, again, I believe that those 5 conferences and their member institutions can play football because they can afford the testing. What they don't trust is their student athletes or the student body at large to maintain good practice when it comes to social distancing, not going to parties, not being around, not being in big gatherings, not being in other people's dorm rooms. And you know what? Think about back to when you were in college. When you feel bulletproof, would you have gone and adhered to everything? Not necessarily. Even going to class in some cases, even though a lot of classes are being done online and a lot of athlete classes are already done online, they don't trust that their athletes and their student body at large will adhere to it. And therefore, they don't want liability. They don't want liability on the campus. They also don't want it in their program because as much money is at stake here, they don't want their entire reputation. They don't want their jobs, meaning university presidents, chancellors, etc. They don't want their jobs to be taken away because somebody got sick, developed a long-term health issue, or God forbid somebody died. They don't want that to be something that gets put on them and something that gets that jeopardizes the university as a whole or jeopardizes their position in the university as a whole. The people making these decisions, they are not college football coaches. They are not athletic directors. They are oftentimes lawyers and presidents and chancellors and doctors and people on university boards who are most of which are not sports people and not football people. They are looking at the macro. They do not want to see somebody get sick and somebody die on their watch. It's inevitable that people will continue to get the coronavirus. They don't want it to happen on their watch. How does it impact the Patriots moving forward as we circle back? Well, it impacts the NFL because if college football cancels or if college football is drastically reduced this year, ding, 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 here comes Saturday football all season long for the NFL. If there can be another window, another broadcast window for the NFL to maximize, they are going to do it. The Patriots are scheduled, I believe, for 5 primetime games. Sunday night against Seattle, Sunday night against Baltimore, Monday night with the Jets. They've got a game, I think, Monday night with Buffalo, and they got Thursday with the Rams. So they are scheduled for 5 primetime games. Maybe you see another game get flexed out to Saturday, and we start seeing more Saturday. We're going to see more Saturday football because if they can monopolize the entire weekend and can see what the traction looks like for an NFL slate, then they can start to get more money And maybe they go and do this again in the future. And even if it's just a 1-year thing, the NFL wants to be in your stream of consciousness 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And if they can get into the NBA, and if they can get into the NHL, and if they can get into the Major League Baseball playoffs, and then in basketball and hockey's cases, into next year's schedule as well, as that's going to start sometime in December in all likelihood, then the NFL will have won in the way that it wants to win. It will have dented those other sports so that football is there. And, as much as I love football, it's kind of gross that the NFL might win again here. Baseball couldn't get its act right. Basketball took forever to get into the bubble. Hockey, we didn't hear anything from a while. And football just went on and on and on with its business. And all of it might end up turning out roses, save for the nearly 70 players who opted out. Luckily for the NFL's sake, none of which are quarterbacks. The last thing I want to address about the college football and just kind of sports in general is this idea that people are rooting against sports. And that couldn't be further from the truth. I lost my job a week and a half ago, part of it due to the coronavirus and the lack of revenue coming in because of the lack of sports. I'm not rooting for sports to go away. I saw another guy in the industry today lose his job. There's been many guys and women in the industry who have lost their job. No one's rooting against sports. We cover sports. We talk sports. We want sports to exist exactly the same as it was before and better in the way that it was before so that we all have work. What sports has become is an easy conduit to prove people's point. That's all. This is where society is right now. You're so concerned with your side being right, in quotes, right, and sports has become a way for you to easily do that. The people all along who have been taking the coronavirus extremely seriously, they said, so when you hear talk of something getting canceled or sports being delayed or whatever, their instant focus is, hey, see, it's still dangerous out there. I've been justified all along in how I've been acting. I've been right all along. You have been wrong. See, we can't safely play baseball. See, we can't play college football. We can't play the NFL without players opting out. It's going to look different because I was right all along. That is where people on that side of things, that is where they fall. When you have people the other way who say, who maybe aren't taking it as seriously or were never taking it seriously, their answer is just, oh man, we can play football, but we can't do X. We can't go to a restaurant. Oh, we can play basketball safely. We can test safely in baseball and see they're not dying here. Yeah, they get up, they get quarantined, they come back, and man, I can't go to work, or I can't go to a restaurant, or I can't go to a bar. Sports has simply become a way for everybody to figure out, sports has become a way to prove your side is right. And that is where society is at. I want to go out now to our guest. I want to bring him in. His name is Miguel. He goes by @PatsCap on Twitter. He is one of the top follows for Patriots Nation. Miguel, how are you?
Doing all right. Just dealing. I lost power in my home for like 5 days. I'm still recovering from that, so I'm doing all right.
Well, I appreciate you joining us. What is your day job? Because you do not work for the Patriots. You are not a capologist. What is your day job?
I help my fellow employees with their computer problems.
So help the Patriots with their money issues, help your fellow employees.
I know the Patriots follow me on Twitter, but I'm pretty sure they're doing a pretty good job of managing the salary cap without me.
How did this get built? Because you're just a guy in Connecticut who's a Patriots fan. How did you become 30,000 Twitter followers and a must follow for Pats Nation? How did this happen?
Okay, so like in the year 2000, right? I read a story in the Boston Globe, and I'm going to say it's Ted. I'm pretty sure it's Ted Johnson, right? I wish I'd written down, had a diary for that day. But I was pretty sure it's Ted Johnson. Next day I read he has a different cap number on the Boston Herald. That doesn't make any sense to me because, doesn't make sense to me as someone who's pretty good with math. So I decided, well, let me just keep track of these numbers myself. Then I reached out I asked people on using his nose groups, the Bosco mailing list, and this is from the year 2000. We didn't have Twitter back then. We didn't have like the forums and stuff like that. So I would just ask them like, use his news groups and the Bosco mailing list to keep. If you see anything about a Patriots cap number, let me know. And then I would do some research, on like USA Today. We used to have a yearly salary cap database, so I could double check my numbers there. Way back in the day, in the early 2000s, there used to be the NFLPA used to publish resource PDFs about contracts. They would never specifically name players, but if they reference a Patriots linebacker with 8 years experience, it was pretty much easy to figure it out. I used to start doing that. Then I started started the web page, started getting some notoriety, and then once on Twitter, I started blowing up. Like Mike. Every time that Mike Reese mentions my name, I get a whole bunch of followers on Twitter. I'm pretty much you see my name on a lot of articles, and after that, I get some more followers.
Have the Patriots themselves ever contacted you about anything, good, bad, or the other?
Through DM, no. Have they? People ask me questions where I think it might have been from a player, or I don't think it's from the Patriots themselves. But I know for a fact, like I was telling someone, a former player's Nate. I might as well say the name because it's on Twitter. Nate Ebner's aunt asked me how I knew about his $500,000 Pro Bowl bonus. You know what I'm saying? The Patriots know of me, and they follow me on Twitter. I know. So the guys who host the show follow me on Twitter. I know a couple of people on their media follow me on Twitter, so they know of me. I've been told by several beat writers when I had that the Patriots players look at my page. I've been told that several times from different beat writers. So I know have the Patriots asked me directly through a DM about something? They never have. Have I thought that I've been asked the question that might have come from some of the organization? Yes. Can I prove it? No.
So, the Patriots know who you are, and the beat writers know who you are. Have you been profiled? Has there ever been a story about you written by these guys?
Tom Curran wrote me a story about me, and first one to write me a story about in 2000, right after the Super Bowl. Hayden Bird for the Boston Globe wrote a story about me. Brian Phelps from Pat's Pulpit wrote a story about me, or did I must have been interviewed by him for like 2 hours. And so I'm like, who else has written stories about me? My name is in 2 books. Chris Bice mentioned me out, gave me a shout out, and Jason Fitzgerald gave me a shout out because literally I was the first person ever to create a salary cap page focused on one team.
Do you like the notoriety, the celebrity that comes with this, or does it become overwhelming to the point where you could never stop doing this now?
I like it. It cracks me up because my brothers and sisters just can't believe how people think, you relate to him? You know what I'm saying? So like my niece was told by someone, one of my nieces was told by someone, if you ever meet a Patriot fan, tell him that your uncle is Miguel Benzan.
Oh, man. So how did you teach yourself all this stuff? Because trying to figure out the NBA and the NFL salary structures is like studying hieroglyphics. How did you teach yourself this?
It's just, for me, it was just math. Once I figured out the formula, a player's cap number is his salary plus his signing bonus operation plus his off-season workout bonus plus any likely to be earned incentives, and I'll say this: an active roster bonus is also considered an incentive. Once I figured that out, it came together to me, and I learned the rules. I mean, the rules back then in the old CBA is a little bit more trickier than they are now because they simplified the rookie contracts. And the best thing about me starting this in 2000, it started, the ball rolling on other people putting up the salary cap stuff. You know what I'm saying? So, and then now it's a lot easier out there. And then I get DMs from people saying I learned something from a beat writer. I know this, and he tells me something, and I take it from there.
Does your full-time job know about your side hobby? Do they get irritated with how much work you put in on the Pats beat?
I don't do any. I'm pretty much don't look at Twitter when I'm working. If you follow me on Twitter, you probably notice when I take my breaks. It's 9 o'clock. I try to take it at 9 o'clock in the morning. I take my lunch at noon, and I take my afternoon break at 1. My boss knows they know of me that I'm a big Patriots fan. I don't think they know that of my notoriety. You know what I'm saying? How somewhat famous I am within the Patriots thing. Some people do, some people don't. I happen to work for a multinational company that has over 50,000 employees. I don't know more than, I'm going to say, no more than 25 of them know what I do on Pat's, as Pat's Cap. You know what I'm saying? But that's a really small number of the big company.
We've seen this movement in sports in the last 15 years or so where the analytics people, they're statistically inclined people that go and they work for analytics websites, and then they ultimately end up in front offices, like you see in Pro Football Focus now a lot. Would you ever work for a team if the opportunity ever came about?
I would work for any team except the Jets.
Just because you can't stand the Jets as a Patriots fan?
Just because, let's just say, as a person of color, I've received some racial epithets from Jets fans.
Wow.
That's about the salary cap stuff. So I'm not going to help a group of people who disrespected me.
Has the option ever come? Has anyone ever reached out to you about working for a team? Is that something that
I've got approached? I've helped agents. I haven't looked for a job working for a thing. The problem is, I'm pretty much established in my job. I don't really want to start at entry level.
Yeah.
If you tell me an NFL team says, "Hey, Miguel, we'll pay for your relocation. We'll pay you at least what you're making at your current job," I'm out. I'm gone. I'm not starting off like I'm just graduated from college.
Now, you've been a Patriots fan for how many years now? I don't know how long you are.
No. I've been a Patriots fan my entire life. I'm old enough that I remember Steve Grogan, mostly I remember seeing the Darryl Stingley thing. I remember the Patriots being upset about losing to the Raiders. So I've been a Patriots fan all my life. I will probably be a fan of Patriots the rest of my life. You asked me about would I probably do this, cover the salary cap? I probably will. I mean, it keeps me busy. I can see that even as an older person, once I'm retired, I can still do it. It gives me something to do. Because I'd probably keep on doing it. I like to. So that's about it. Yeah.
I'm picturing you like the early days of fantasy baseball, where someone's out there tabulating box scores in the newspaper and counting up. I pictured you out to dinner or out at a bar, go on Twitter, Patriots acquire this little known player, and there you are on a napkin just jotting down notes.
No, I don't do that. And I never got into fantasy baseball. I do play fantasy football. I do sometimes when I sometimes bring my laptop with me if I think the Patriots going to break news. But most of the stuff I could probably do off the top of my head, especially the last two guys I just signed, like Jordan Leggett and Darius Kilgo. I'll be surprised if they sign deals that are more than $825,000. Yeah. So that would take another $300,000 off the Patriots cap. I'll be pleasantly, thinking they'll sign like 1-year deals for $825,000. But do I do it at the napkins? No, my wife wouldn't let me do that.
It's amazing. The Patriots, the whole offseason, like less than $1 million.
Yeah,
now through various other reasons, now $33 million plus some of the most cap space in the NFL.
Yep.
Are even you surprised at how this has been manipulated to the Patriots' favor?
I didn't see it coming. I never saw it coming. I first of all, so like the way I interpreted the CBA for Antonio Brown, I thought they were gonna, if they're going to get a credit, it'd be at the end of the next year, the beginning of next year. I never thought it'd be in July, 4 months after the start of the league year. I thought if they were to win, it'd be they would get it in next March when the 2021 league year would start. As for Aaron Hernandez, I'm surprised they got that credit because I don't know where he's getting that money from. Okay, all right. As for the opt-outs, I didn't see 8. I don't know anyone who predicted 8. I guessed I'm not the only one, so I'm not gonna feel bad about it. But some of us who try to, the cap guys, who projected that the signing bonus when most of the signing bonus would stay, the 2020 would stay on the 2020 cap. All right, for some reason it didn't, and they have this quirky rule about other amounts treated like a signing bonus for Patrick Chung and Marcus Cannon. All right, so they have a little bit, like about $2 million for those two still on the signing bonus ratio on the 2020 cap. I thought there'd be $9 million more. I never thought that would happen. I understand why that would happen, but if you had asked me in January, February, March, if these guys opted out, what would happen to the signing bonus ratio? I would say, based on what has happened in the past, it's staying on the 2020 cap. I was surprised by that. I would like to hear from folks, the people who said when the Patriots had so little cap space that Bill Belichick was a bad GM. So he goes, so a month later he goes from having the least amount of cap space to being one of the league leaders in 1 month. Did he become a better GM in 1 month, or just circumstances happen? And I remember reading this tweet by the guy, I forget who it was, and I don't want to say I won't even guess because it wouldn't be fair if I got it wrong. But I remember laughing. I'm thinking, you're judging Bill Belichick on 1 year of 20 years of GM. I'm like, you got to be kidding me.
$33 million in cap space. Now, what's your thought for what the Pats should do? Should they go all in on 2020 and try to get guys on 1-year deals? Should they wait until guys get cut in training camp and try to overpay to get a better team this year? Should they try to make some longer-term investments with this money? Should they make trades? What do you think they should do?
They should do what they've been doing. Signing the guys at the re-signing the guys. They should get a couple of more veterans. I've been hopping for I don't think they'll do it again because they just signed Darius Gilco. But I was looking for Snacks Harrison or Tim Jernigan. Still think they need another linebacker. I said to one of my sisters that a team could spend the money. They're willing to spend the money this offseason, they could win a Super Bowl. Because if you spend the money, because there's a lot of veteran free agents out there, all right? If you sign 3 or 4 of them and you stay healthy, you might win a Super Bowl that you probably wouldn't have won if it wasn't for the COVID pandemic.
What about
maybe what I'm saying? So I don't know if that team is the Patriots. I don't know. I was thinking more because after the 08 opt-outs, I'm like, oh man, I really don't. That's a lot of guys to try to make up for. But if I was a team that could think you could stay relatively healthy, I'd sign them. And maybe it is the Patriots because literally they live. Most of the guys live in Massachusetts. As long as they stay, people keep on masking up and staying healthy and doing everything, so we don't have another second wave, and they could. Maybe no, and Patriots, not one Patriots player has tested positive for COVID. Let's keep that up, folks. I mean, if we do this, and if they stay healthy, they could just be being healthy.
What about making a trade? We see this a lot in baseball.
Oh,
Rental player guys who are
yeah.
coming at the end of their contract. Now, people have said you can't spend all this $33 million because next year the cap's going to go down. So fine, I won't make a long-term investment. But what if I go and get AJ Green is a free agent after the year. Marvin Jones is a free agent after the year.
Yeah.
Could I go make a deal for a guy who's got 1 year left?
They have with $33 million in cap space, they have so much flexibility in what they can do. And the idea that they shouldn't spend close to any of that $33 million just to have to roll over the cap space. All right, folks, you're pretty much assuming that every other team is not going to do the same thing. You know what I'm saying? So right now, after we saw a tweet from Phil Yates over the weekend, how much cap space per team each had. The average team had $17 million in cap space. Yeah, the Patriots have 33, but the Patriots are one of the few teams in the league that has active roster bonuses. All right, so like for example, when David Andrews is active for the first game, the next day, the following week, the Patriots are going to lose cap space. Patriots could lose up to $2.3 million in cap space just because of the active roster bonuses. Wow. All right, so the Patriots are not, while they look good now, all right, that $33 million doesn't mean they're going to end up being in the leaders now. It doesn't mean if they do a couple of things, they extend some players like a J.C. Jackson or Adam Butler or Lawrence Guy, doesn't mean they're going to have the 33 at the end. And I said this on Twitter, and I'll say this, keep on saying this on Twitter, I'll keep on saying it on the podcast. I'd rather have the player than the cap space 8 days a week. Because cap space, I'm a cap space guy, all right? And I said this on Twitter. Cap space doesn't make a play. It doesn't tackle, doesn't throw, doesn't run, doesn't do anything. It's just a tool to allow you to get the talent. And that's what cap space doesn't do anything. Like the Cleveland Browns have had a ton of cap space. They've won jack. And I can ask the average football fan who won the Super Bowl 3 years ago, all right? And they will know the answer. Average football fan, who ended the year with the most cap space? Most people don't know that. It's all about the winning. Sorry.
How did the Patriots get in such a bad situation to start with? Because they only had the $1 million for a long time. We talked about for a team that never pays anybody. Okay, how did they end up in such a bad spot?
Let's stop with the never pay anyone. Okay.
Okay. They paid Stephon Gilmore.
Every position. I could probably every position on it. They've had someone near the top of the league. Okay. For example, Joel Corey from CBS Sports Line, right, just had an article about the highest paid players by position and adjusted for the increase in the cap. Still, Ty Law, Lauren Malloy, Robert Gronkowski were listed on that. Okay. Current Patriots who was near the top when they signed the deal. Okay. Devin McCourty, Stephon Gilmore, Shaq. Okay, Shaq Mason got a great deal on him. So the Patriots, what they happen to do, they go for they have the most, and I haven't done it lately because I lost power. They have about 38 players who have a cap hit of at least. That can't be right now. Hold on a minute. Let's not give you the wrong number. Okay, because after the opt-outs, the number couldn't be right. Okay, it's 30. They have 33 players who have $1 million cap hit. All right. That used to lead. They used to have 38. That used to lead the league. After the opt-outs, some other team might lead the league now. That's what they believe in. They believe in a strong middle class, and they used to pay some practice squad players more than the minimum. Of course, in the new CBA, they got taken away. Right. So yet another rule that the Patriots have caused to change. So another thing, the reason they didn't have a lot of cap space is they had a lot of dead money because of Antonio Brown, Tom Brady, Stephen Gostkowski, Michael Bennett, and then they for some reason didn't make any moves, made less than 6 or 7 moves that created cap space the entire offseason. They waited till they came to the Aaron Hernandez and Antonio Brown thing, came in, bumped them up to $7 million, and then the opt-outs, and boop, now we're up to 33. They chose that? It was an interest. I don't know. I would think they would have maybe have chased someone else. I see what I mean. If they kept those 8 opt-outs, I can see what they would do. I got to better understand what they were doing. But that's the explanation why they have very little cap space. I disagree with this. They don't pay anyone. They pay. They have a value, and they don't play that player more than that value. All right. Have they made some bad deals?
It feels like they're paying. So, like, I look at the Rams a couple of years ago. The Rams paid a ton of top-end players, and then nobody else. The Patriots are saying are spreading out. They're paying more players more generously.
Okay, so, like, for example, that's a great question with the Rams, right? Because I'll never forget. I'm gonna blast this guy. He's gonna hate I'm gonna blast his name. Jim Donaldson. All right. He's over here talking in September of 2018, talking about how come the Patriots don't have any cap space, and he's pointing at the Rams. And I like tell him the big difference is they had the rookie quarterback, all right, on a deal. All right? I'm like, come on. And then so Patriots, you know what the Rams do? They basically have the same starters and play a lot of snaps. So the Patriots, because they're a matchup team, they have a lot of players play a lot of snaps throughout the year. All right, so they have this. That's not true for the Rams. The Rams have, when you start for them, you're playing all the snaps all the time. So when they get hurt, there's a big drop off. You know what I'm saying? So I prefer. I'm not, because a Patriots fan. I've been watching them, and I understand. I was saying, yeah, they're an older team, but I don't think you could be this matchup specific if you had a team of a bunch of rookies. You know what I'm saying? So that's where I'm a little worried about the Patriots' success this year, because they're gonna be a lot younger than they have been in the past. So they're really depending on the smartness of these rookies and one year players to adjust the game plans right away. You know what I'm saying? So. Okay, that answers that.
How do you feel about the Pats right now? Are you worried about Buffalo?
I'm never going to be worried about Buffalo when they have Josh Allen. Okay? I'm sorry. I just don't think he's a good quarterback. But I worry about them. They're the team that if they spend the money, spend a couple more guys, maybe they should shine. They should be going after Logan Ryan. They should be going after Tim Jurgen to make that team better. All right? So they can overcome Josh Allen. Okay. All right. I used to be like I'm a Zoom session with a couple of Patriots fans on a monthly one, and I was dead 11-5. These opt-outs have made me a little bit less confident of 11-5. I'm probably gonna drop it down to 10-6. You know what I'm saying? But it is because I didn't think 8.
Well, 10-6 gets him into the playoffs. Might even win the division. So 10-6 gets the end of the playoffs.
Yeah.
So Miguel,
like before, I don't bet. Like I was thinking about betting on the Patriots on the over, but I won't.
Miguel, hey, we appreciate your hard work. You can follow him on Twitter at PatsCap. I think Boston.com ranked you one of the top 25 follows in the New England area. So he's one of the top follows for any Patriots fan. He's got all the answers. It's easy to understand. And again, it's like hieroglyphics. He makes it easier for you to understand. So Miguel, I appreciate you, man. Pats Nation appreciates you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Take care. God bless and stay safe, everyone.
You as well. There he goes. That's Miguel at PatsCap on Twitter. Appreciate you hanging through any audio issues, but overall good. Remember, full show podcast on Apple Podcast, Spotify. We got the Bleav in Patriots. You can just Google us. You can continue watching on YouTube as well. One thing that we talked about with Miguel that I want to finish on is this. If I were the Patriots, I'd make a trade, because you're going to have teams that are impacted by the coronavirus, and you're going to have teams that are looking to shed some salary. And you're going to have teams that are looking to save $1. And if I were the Pats, I'd be looking at a Marvin Jones in Detroit. AJ Green, you're not going to get out there in Cincinnati, but Marvin Jones in Detroit. There's other wide receivers out there. There's pass rushers out there as well. I'd be looking at, let me see, I have in my notes right in front of Sammy Watkins in Kansas City, who's already won a ring. So there are opportunities out there. So you see it in baseball a lot, the rental player. And I always say in baseball, hey, you don't want to overpay for a rental. If the Patriots could keep their compensation that they give a team low, right? If a team's just looking to shed money, Pats will take on the contract of the player, get the player, and give back what? 6th round pick, 5th round pick. I do it. I wouldn't be getting 2nd round picks for these rental players. But if I'm looking to win the Super Bowl this year or win the division, then I'm taking a flyer on these guys and saying, look, I'll improve my team. I got the money that you want to save. I will take the player. I will take the money, and I will give you something back in return. So I am all in on the rental player idea for the Patriots. And with the cap expected to go way down next year, you can't make massive long-term investments if you're the Patriots. What you can do is add to this year's team with that cap space and then not have it be on the books next year when the cap goes down and you still have cap space in the future. Thanks to Miguel from Pat's Cap for joining us. I'm Brady Farkas. Follow me on Twitter. It says it up there on your YouTube screen at FA Radio Brady. Excited. Thursday's episode. Isaac Bruce, Pro Football Hall of Famer. He lost to the Patriots in a Super Bowl. What are his memories about that? Isaac Bruce comes on Thursday. We'll see you soon, everybody.